Welcome to UNCAGED, the show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. We're going to be talking about tomorrow here. We're speaking with Taylor Black. Hey, Taylor, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to talk to you, Taylor. Taylor has one of those jobs that you're like, wow, how do I get a job like that? He is the principal program manager for the Office of the CTO's Incubator at Microsoft. And we will talk about what he's working on in that incubator and really kind of how he's helping push innovation forward in a big way. But before we get there, Taylor, tell us a little bit about your background and your career.
Yeah, so I find that my background ends up being a little bit typical for people who work in the venture studio space, which means I'm a jack of all trades. I have a law degree. I founded my own B2B SaaS company a number of years ago and sold it. I've worked in business intelligence for some of the Fortune 500 like T-Mobile and Disney. And I've also helped build incubators at places like the Invention Science Fund before coming to Microsoft. So a little bit of everything, and that's the way I like it.
So you find yourself in Redmond and working at Microsoft, and what a great place to be.
It really is.
As I alluded to, Microsoft was a big customer of mine back in the day, and I know them quite well. And it's exciting. You have so many bright people, but tell me what being a driver of an incubator looks like at Microsoft.
Yeah, we kind of approach it as a corporate innovation ecosystem, really. The Office of the CTO is kind of a coordinator of a lot of different efforts across all of Microsoft, technical and innovation kind of broadly. What our incubation studio does is we come up with ideas and we source ideas from across all of Microsoft, bring them into our incubator like a small startup, even though they're not incorporated separately, and run them like a lean startup should be run, starting with a small, 2 or 3 person team, growing that idea up until it becomes a 70-person team, and then launches into a product group to become a brand new strategic business for Microsoft. Now, of course, there's a lot of attrition along the way, as all such innovation pipelines have, but that's kind of our core model. We do a number of other kind of innovation programs as well, working with other incubators across Microsoft. We're in the process of potentially working with external incubators as well. And of course, we partner closely with our mergers and acquisitions venture group, our corporate venture capital arm M12, and our Microsoft for Startups program. It's a holistic thing.
So Taylor, maybe explain to me a little bit better on
Sure.
how does it actually work? I mean, let's say I'm working at Microsoft and I have an amazing idea, and someone says, "Oh, well, you got to talk to Taylor." Then what happens?
Yeah, you talk to me, and
Okay.
and we chat about your idea a little bit. Sometimes the ideas that folks have are really profound and great ideas, but not necessarily a fit for my incubator. My incubator is intended for big strategic bets for Microsoft, things that Microsoft isn't doing currently. So often, some of the ideas I'll say, "Hey, do you know what? That's a great idea. Here are some great resources to help you flesh your idea out a little bit further, and maybe you can go work with Microsoft for Startups for it." Or I'm aware of this venture studio outside of Microsoft that might be a better fit for that particular idea. Other times too, they're key, insightful ways in which we can grow a current pipeline of product or a current offering that Microsoft already has. And so I'll have them work with an incubator who's closer to that particular division or that particular product surface. The ones who do come to us and we are like, "Oh yeah, that could be a big strategic business for Microsoft." Those we work together. We build out a 6-pager. The 6-pager is really just it's almost like an investment memo where it walks through the business idea, explains the market, explains what customer touch points they've had thus far that helps validate that, a little bit about their technology path, and then some thinking around what their ask will be to our investment committee in terms of dollars and headcount in order to build this out over a course of 6, 12, 18 months.
Do they hold on to any like ownership of it, or is it all, how do you remunerate
Yeah.
folks for
Yeah,
ideas?
it's all, and this is a fascinating topic, but
Yeah,
that you can spend a lot of time on.
yeah,
It's all currently within the Microsoft's own compensation plan.
okay.
And so these ideas aren't incorporated separately.
Hmm.
They aren't given their own equity stack, as it were.
Right,
They're all internal to Microsoft, and the employees on these projects, all FTEs, are compensated like regular employees, where this incubation ends up being the thing that they're driving forward, or the program they're driving forward that
right.
ties into their review cycles.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Well, I mean, I think it's so critical, and certainly my experience with Microsoft is that you have so many bright people there with many, many brilliant ideas. So it must be quite interesting to hear those. But I mean, Taylor, your job really gives you an amazing purview of what is a big idea, what are the major trends that matter right now to invest in innovation, and really kind of the state of innovation. What are you seeing right now in the market?
Yeah, it's really interesting, particularly coming off of a really heavy venture capital investment period over the last couple of years, and now rolling right into a bit of a recession. I
Yeah.
think in many ways, though, what it's doing for corporate and venture capital ecosystems is that there's a lot of big money available for startups, available for innovation programs, and there's a lot of talent that's been freed up, for lack of a better word, that to work on these sorts of things.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting to me because what I've been finding, at least working with teams internally, is that it's a lot easier to get people into the innovation and the entrepreneurial mindset
Hmm.
because everybody's a little bit operating a little bit more scrappily
Oh, I like that.
on tighter budgets. Yeah, and the people who, and because talent is more available,
Hmm.
perhaps than it had been. I'm seeing venture studios and corporate venture programs really having a lot of great people to work on those kinds of ideas. Now, don't get me wrong. The startups themselves are probably going to have a bit of a lean time. It's going to be harder to raise, but I think the ecosystem as a whole, the innovation and startup ecosystem as a whole, is really poised for some pretty fantastic growth over the next 3 to 5 years, as we kind of are in this hunker down build period.
Are there specific threads within that world that you're seeing more promise in or more excitement about?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, generative AI is what
Yeah.
everybody is talking about now. I mean, you see what we came out with Chat GPT, and
Yeah.
that's really, I think, a very early indicator of a massive paradigm shift.
By the way, an
Um,
amazing product.
isn't that?
Amazing product.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, look,
yeah,
I've done some research in the machine learning space myself, and yeah, it's impressive. It's
yeah.
impressive. So kudos.
It is. Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it's really insightful of Microsoft to invest in OpenAI, a number of years ago. And actually, Kevin Scott just gave a really interesting keynote on where he thinks the generative AI technology is going to be going in the next couple of years. But it's that sort of technological breakthrough that really inspires a lot of innovation and innovative thinkers to say, hey, this is a cool technology.
Yeah.
But how do I take Chat GPT and make it something that's not just, something where you post screenshots to your Twitter and make, funny jokes about, but how does this really change my human experience on a daily basis? How does this become a companion for me in my life, such that I can scale myself
Mhm.
and bring a lot more to my human experience?
The voices in my head will really be the voices in my earbuds, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So Taylor, I noticed that you stepped into this amazing role right in the middle of the pandemic, and it'd just be great to hear that kind of journey of You step into this role right in the heart of the messy time and how it's evolved, and maybe some insights that you pulled from that
Yeah,
experience.
certainly. It's still a bit of a challenge in some ways, you know. I've met with my whole team in person once since I started a year and a half ago. I didn't meet any of my team members for a couple of months in person at
Wow.
all. Um, and for me, I mean, I'm an extrovert, and so meeting in person is something that I really missed over the pandemic. But perhaps more importantly, from a business standpoint, a lot of my role ends up being influence. And
Mm,
so one of my primary tactics before the pandemic was walking the halls and getting to know people door by door. And it's really hard to ignore somebody who's leaning in your door frame, but it's really easy to hit decline on a meeting invite with somebody that you've never met, right?
yeah.
Um, so in some ways, it feels like I've had one arm tied behind my back when I first started out. But what I've discovered is that people kind of shifted to this new norm, and it became routine to have, you know, 6 or 7 half-hour meetings a week with people that I hadn't met before, and they knew that this was going to be a thing that happens. This is how we are replacing the coffee break or replacing the wandering down the hall.
Right.
Um, and honestly, because of the global spread of Microsoft and the fact that a lot of my team members are dispersed across the United States and the world, it ends up being a more cohesive experience for our team as a whole to work in this virtual fashion.
Yeah.
That said, one space in particular, which is the idea generation work that I do, um, that I think has taken a bit of a toll in this virtual period.
Yeah.
Um, when we're face to face with each other on video, or when we can be semi-distracted by, you know, doing a little bit of work while we're in a virtual meeting,
Yeah.
it doesn't lend itself to the same kind of quick idea ideation that
Yeah.
used to be possible in small groups of
Yeah,
12.
it's a really actually an interesting point. I've struggled myself. I the classic whiteboard moments where you kind of have that eureka and everyone comes together. I know that we've seen a variety of products appear in the market over the last couple of years to try to fill that gap. Hasn't It just hasn't worked for me personally yet, but
Yeah,
I'm sitting here in my studio that's surrounded by whiteboards. So there you go.
yeah.
Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But you're absolutely right. It's a different approach that has
Mhm.
to be kind of sought there.
Yeah, and you know, I think too what it does is there's a good kind of silver lining to it too, which is whiteboards, I think, lend themselves to extroverts standing in front of a group of people and expounding,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad thing. And there's
Yeah.
ways in which you can mediate that in a group. But I think we might be hearing more now from voices that were more quiet
Yeah.
on the more introverted side of things, or
It's a
perhaps
great point.
the people who don't want to stand up in front of a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Um, and that's been rich. It's just different from my experience, particularly as that sort of extroverted, my whiteboard's over there sort of person. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, Taylor, I mean, here we are at the end of the year. I'm catching you right before the holidays. What's your outlook for 2023, and what's on the innovation and incubator docket?
yeah. You know, I'm super excited for this next 6 months in particular. There's two major efforts that we're pushing forward that I think really take advantage of the economic situation we find ourselves in, and a lot of kind of the pent-up growth and innovation that I feel in the overall innovation ecosystem. The first of these is that we're kicking off a series of innovation sessions for us end up being that those the very top of our funnel, which are ideas. We'll generate thousands of ideas that turn into hundreds of prototypes that turn into 5 incubations and maybe one successful product.
Right.
And that funnel is brutal, but the being able to innovate at the top of it and come up with a lot of really cool ideas in a variety of different spaces is something I'm really excited for. It kind of gets that idea flow going.
Love it.
Um, The second thing that I'm excited about, and they kind of go hand in hand, is we're really doubling down on innovation community internal to Microsoft. We're building a consortium of all of our different incubators across the whole company.
Right.
We're building a way of uh, being able to run projects with our incubations themselves. So say that you might be an engineer, over in Azure, but given your project, you want to take on a little bit of a stretch goal. We have a program that we're calling Piloteers, where you'd be able to do kind of project discrete work with some of our cutting edge incubations, where you get to expand your skill set and repertoire, and our incubations get to directly benefit from those insights from other individuals across the company.
Oh, wow.
Um, so I'm seeing a lot of great like cross-semination and idea flow coming into this new year, and I'm excited to see what it brings.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, if you can get all of those different efforts to work more seamlessly, the amount of data that can be cross-pollinated must be amazing. And then
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier this idea of working with other incubators, perhaps outside of Microsoft at some point. That's even, that also adds another wrinkle to the whole story, which is very, very exciting. Taylor, it's been amazing talking with you. I mean, I love what you guys are working on. If someone was interested in getting in touch with you to learn more about Octo and what you guys are putting together on the innovation front, where's the best place to get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. We use it kind of as a company intranet. It being owned by Microsoft helps. But yeah, that's a great way of getting a hold of me, and it has my work email in there as well.
Well, Taylor, this is great. I really appreciate you being on Uncaged today. We've been speaking with Taylor Black. Taylor Black is the Principal Program Manager for the Office of the CTO Incubator. He is really driving incubators and incubator thinking at Microsoft and working with a variety of other groups on innovation and really bringing that to the fore. It's been great to talk to Taylor about where Microsoft is today, where they're planning to push this stuff going forward. And clearly machine learning is somewhere in the mix. Taylor, thank you so much. And we look forward to having you back on Uncaged.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.